Hello, here we are in the Zoom room. This is the workshop portion, the hands-on portion in the Zoom room. I'm Cathy here with my little friend Casey. Casey is a red wiggler worm. So I wanted to, while Casey is in my lap, I wanted to talk a little bit about worm biology. So worms are hermaphrodites, meaning male and female. That's pretty cool already. Worms have 5 hearts each. 800 to 1,000 worms, red wiggler worms in a pound, 5 hearts each. That's 4,000 to 5,000 hearts in a pound of worms. It's a lot of love and a great thing to bring into your house. All that love. Okay. If you've seen a worm and it has this swollen band on it, that means it's an adult worm. It's fully mature. So all of the organs are, so this piece is always closest to the head. And if you see a worm that has this, you know which end is the head and which end is the other end. Both ends kind of look the same, especially on my little puppet. So this is the critical piece of the worm, the head part. So 1 mouth, 1 head, and 5 hearts. All of their hearts are between the head and the swollen band. Everything here. So sometimes people ask me, if I cut a worm in half, do I have 2 worms? Yeah, you do. Do you have 2 live worms? That's a good question. So, if you cut a worm in half, by accident, of course, while you're digging in the soil, and you cut a worm in half, because if you have good, healthy soil, there's going to be lots of worms in there. So if you dig, cut a worm in half, the bottom half will keep on squirming around because there's nerve endings through the whole body. It's like it's alive. There's nerve endings through the whole body. So the bottom piece will keep moving, but without a mouth or hearts or any organs, it can't continue to live. So it will eventually stop wiggling and become part of the soil. The second half, depending how close it's cut to the critical piece, may regenerate. If you've seen worms and they have those beautiful lines on them, they're called annelids. It just means segmented creature. So, you know, if a couple of segments get cut off the bottom end of the worm by accident, those 3 or 4 pieces will wiggle around, and then those 3 or 4 pieces will grow back again. So it regenerates, just like starfish or lizards when their tail gets taken off. So fun. Okay, worm biology, fun. So there are thousands of types of worms, only 4 that are optimum for worm composting. Red wigglers, European nightcrawlers, African nightcrawlers, and perionyx that have been identified. There's probably more. We're looking for surface-dwelling worms. So vermicomposting is done inside. Any container will do. It's creating the right environment. So I've got this lovely container with my company name on it, not available anymore, out of production. So you could get like an old recycling bin or a Rubbermaid, any kind of container. The worms require a carbon-nitrogen mix, just like outdoor composting. So the carbon that we use is shredded paper. Could be leaves, straw, cardboard, drink trays from the coffee shop, egg cartons, the cardboard ones, paper towels, paper towels and paper towel roll, the little cousin, the toilet paper roll. All of those can be used. You just want to cut them up. I wanted to give you a little trick for shredding your paper. My paper was put through a paper shredder. If you have one of those, that's a beautiful way. If you do not have a paper shredder, no problemo, no energy required. So paper grows on trees, yes? Well, not with the ink and the story, but okay. So what you do is you rip with the grain. This is the star. If I try to rip the star this way, look it doesn't rip very nice. If I turn it sideways, look what happens when I, look it, beautiful strips. This is a wonderful activity for the kids. Oh, it's so fun. You can make a music orchestra, a paper orchestra. Fun. Okay, so you shred up your paper, add that in. Okay, so whatever you're using for your carbon source, you want to shred it up or cut it up or somehow make the pieces smaller, because the worms don't have teeth. The smaller the pieces, the faster it breaks down, the more the worms can eat. The next ingredient is soil. Now the red wigglers are not soil dwellers, they're soil makers. But they do need the critters that are in the soil, some of the bugs. So this is just 1 liter of just regular garden soil. You want to use soil from outside, like from a park, or if you have a yard, just go and grab some soil from there, rather than using potting soil that you buy at the store, because potting soil is sterilized, meaning they've taken all the microbes out. So you still have the grit, which you need, but you don't have the life, which you really need. They're the teeth for the soil. So the next ingredient, so you've got your paper, you've got your soil. Your next ingredient is some eggshells. You want to crush them up. I've got about 6 eggshells here. You just crush them up. The worms have very strong skin, so you don't have to worry about the worms getting cut by the eggshells. Just crush them up. The eggshells add calcium for reproduction and helps to balance the pH in the bedding. Most of the food scraps we're adding in are acidic, so this helps balance the pH. And then the last ingredient into your bedding is water, about 2 liters of water. Don't you love my props? All recycled ingredients, love it. So 2 liters of water. You want to just let your tap water sit. I fill up the bottles, leave the top off, and let it just aerate for, at least 24 hours. Then the chlorine will evaporate and bring the water to room temperature. There we go. So you mix all those ingredients together, and then you add your worms right on top. So in a bin like this, you would have 1 pound or half a pound of worms. This is a picture of 1 pound of red wigglers. Again, 800 to 1,000 worms in 1 pound. So there we go, 1 pound of worms. You add those in, and they're going to naturally make their way into the environment. Actually, I should go back and say, once you've got your bedding all mixed up, do a squeeze test once you've got the bedding mixed up. You do a squeeze test, a few drops should come out of the bedding. Worms are about 90% moisture, so you want to make sure that you've got your bedding the right humidity, the right moisture content. A few drops should come out. If no water comes out, add a bit more water. If the water is streaming out, it's too wet, then just add a bit more dry bedding, and that will help sop up the moisture. And then once you get the consistency you want, kind of just fluff it up. The worms like it moist and fluffy, and then you're going to add your worms right on top. Okay, and they're going to naturally make their way into the bedding. So the red wigglers will eat about half their weight per day in food scraps. The kind of food you're adding into your worm bin, you can add all your apples, pears, potatoes, carrots, all of your fruit, all of your veg can go into your worm bin. Here's a list of things you can put in. All your fruit and veg, coffee, tea, pasta rice, beans, greens, plant clipping, cereal. It's really endless what can go in. Super fun. The worms are so adaptable. What stays out? I'll tell you what stays out. It's a much shorter list. No meat, no dairy, no sauce, and no kind of oily material. Worms breathe through their skin, so if you put like grease in your worm bin, then that could clog the pores and the worms won't be able to breathe, so nobody wants that. The worms don't have teeth, so the more you chop up your scraps, the faster it breaks down, the more the worms can eat, and the system just goes faster. I do suggest adding your food scraps into a container and letting them start to decompose first. This container is actually made in Ontario. It's called the Sure Close. Look at this. The lid stays open for easy filling. I don't know if you can see the holes in the top. The holes allow the material to be aerobic, meaning with oxygen. So the holes are very small, so fruit flies can't get in if they're in your house. And there we go. I'm just going to pull this bag of food out because I put it in there. There we go. Just so that I could show you what kind of food you can put in. So these need to be chopped, but there's some yummy, delicious brown, mushy bananas on the bottom. Then we got some celery, some cucumber, a couple of apple cores. And so all of this material would be chopped up. This is about what a pound of worms can eat. So it's half their weight per day once they're established. So a pound of worms, half a pound per day, or 3 to 4 pounds per week. Now you're not feeding your worms every day. You would feed them every other day or every third day. You get into your own rhythm and the worms are very adaptable. So I'm just going to show you how to feed your worms. So imagine these chunky things aren't here. You just pull back your bedding, add your chopped up food in the hole that you've made, and then you make sure that it's covered so you don't get fruit flies. You rotate around, burying the food in different part, and the worms will kind of follow the food. You're adding paper, you're adding food, the worms are eating it all, and then they convert all this material. Once the material is converted, it's time to harvest your worm bin or separate the worms and the compost. The easiest way to do that is the dump and sort method. Yep, so you dump your bin on a plastic sheet. You would have more than this. You put it in small round piles. The worms are photosensitive or afraid of the light, so they go down into the piles. You simply scoop off the top, scoop around the sides. The worms will continue making their way down into the pile. Once you get your worms all separated, you'll be left with a little pile of black gold. You can use that on your plants. Take the worms, add them. You've already prepared your new bedding, I hope so. And you add the worms back into the system. They continue working. And you use the black gold on your plants, on your vegetables, and then you stand back while your plants explode, because this is plant food. Beautiful plant food. Premium plant food. You know, I say that compost is great. Worm compost is greater, and it's the truth. Okay, so I wanted to show you, so that's just any container. That's beautiful, and it really is just creating the right environment. We have this beautiful system here called the living composter. Yes, you might have noticed I was sitting on it. It is a functional piece of furniture, and I wanted to show you that it actually comes in 4 delightful colors. Green, black, gray, and plum. So beautiful. This system's made in Ontario, so it's supporting local manufacture. We need that, we love that, and it's a functional piece of furniture designed for anybody, but specifically for people that are in small spaces, condos, classrooms, corporations. Get yours today. So how does this work? Let me just move this out of the way. So how this works, actually this one's going. I wanted to show you just with these 2 trays. So each of your living composters comes with 2 trays. And so there's holes on the bottom. This one's used, so you can see. Holes in the bottom, holes in the top. Whoops. So that makes it easy for the worms to migrate up. So here we go. I'm just going to put that good there. So this one is set up. It would be the same bedding ingredients as your basic container. So you would have your paper or cardboard, leaves, straw, whatever you're using for your bedding, a little bit of soil, eggshells, water. You mix it up exactly the same. So I've covered the bottom. You just do this on your first tray. You cover the bottom with just a couple of sheets of paper, just so everything doesn't fall through in your initial setup. Again, add your worms on here. When you're feeding, you add your scraps in, cover it up, rotate around. The worms will eat it all. Once your tray fills up, then you take your empty tray, set up your new bedding, and you place it on top. Because of the holes, the bedding will be touching the holes on the bottom, so the worms can easily migrate up through the holes, and then they're in the top tray. Then you're only feeding in the top tray. The worms in the bottom, some will go up to the top, new adventure, some will stay. They'll finish what's there, and then they reduce the volume. And then it's about a month and a half to 2 months for each tray. So a month and a half to 2 months, you add your next tray, start feeding here, then you've got 2 active trays. Then it's about another maybe month and a half to 2 months by the time the worms will leave the bottom. Then you'll be left with a tray of black gold. I'll show you in a sec. A tray of black gold that you can take that out and use that on your plants. So beautiful. So it's like you're just making your own fertilizer. Okay. So I wanted to show you my system. This is actually my active, working worm composter. Come close. Come and see. So you take the lid off. Look at this. It might look like a little bit of a jungle in here. So you can see some recognizable bits. There's some tea bags. So what you do with tea bags, you just poke a hole and the worms will go in. Most tea bags are made from synthetic fibers, so the worms will eat the tea, but then you're left with the tea bag. You can see some other, paper and bits. I'm going to pull this back so you can see the worms are here. Here we go. Oh my gosh, look at how beautiful they are. They're just working away. And you can't smell, but if you were here with me, you would go, wow, it looks like it should smell because you can see rotting food, but it does not smell. the odor that you have maybe is like the forest floor after a rain. It's a beautiful natural odor. So look at this, so beautiful. So this is the top tray. It's full. It's ready actually to have another tray put on. I'm going to show you the bottom tray. Wow, look at this. Oh my gosh, this is super rich. Oh, there's still a little worm there. So this is super rich. This is ready to go in the garden. So you can see that the worms have reduced the volume. This was full when I added the tray on, but they've reduced the volume a little bit. And now any worms that are here because the holes are not touching they're no longer touching, so the worms can no longer migrate upstairs. So they'll just finish what's here. So then we can take this out and use this on our plants. And I just wanted to show you the bottom of this system. So this is just a basin to collect your liquid. So you can see there's a little thing here to capture the liquid. And then right in the bottom, there is a tap. So you can switch that tap so you can easily empty the liquid. The liquid that comes out of the bottom, sometimes people say, yay, compost tea. Not for drinking, for putting on your plants, when they see the tap. So I say kind of with caution, like the living composter or the tower composters, with the tap at the bottom, offer a wonderful opportunity to collect the liquid. So you can manage your moisture in your bin easily. If the liquid that comes out of the bottom, if it smells bad, then it's anaerobic. I think we spoke at the beginning about aerobic and anaerobic. If it smells bad, it's anaerobic. Plants always require aerobic bacteria to grow, so you wouldn't use that on your plants. You would just discard it, but a great way to manage your moisture. If it doesn't smell bad, you can dilute it and water your plants and have liquid fertilizer, so it's usable in that sense. If you wanted to make some compost tea, you could just take some of the castings, fancy word for worm poo, add that into your watering jug. It's water soluble, meaning that it will dissolve into the water, and you just stir it up. It will dissolve. It kind of look like tea color, but don't drink it. And then you just water your plants. So you can easily make some of your own. Please note that you cannot store the compost tea in a sealed container, because what will happen? The bacteria will eat the oxygen and you'll create anaerobic liquid, which will then be bad for your plants. So if you're going to make compost tea, brew it up and then use it on your plants, or at least store it in an open container. It's more viable the sooner you use it. All right, so there we go. I think we're going to go back to live streaming, and if you have any questions, put them in the chat box, and I'm happy to answer any of your questions that you have. Thank you for coming today. Thank you to York Region Food Network, and let the games begin.